Ruto thinks Odinga is too old to engage in politics and he should retire. Do you share his view? This is Deputy President William Ruto.
I don't think age is really an issue. This issue has been overplayed in this country. Age is important when you are talking about a regular job, a 5 to 8 job. But when you are talking about leadership at that level, at political level, you are talking about policy leadership at the corporate level. I don't think age should come in. If you are talking about chairman of a parastatal, a chairman of an organization, a president of a country, a cabinet secretary. If you look at America, for example, look at those fellows in America. Now there is talk that even Hillary Clinton could come back. Look at Trump. Trump is Raila's age mate and is going for it again. Reagan left at an advanced age. Look here, my friend, it's not about the years. It is about the drive, the energy, the will to serve, and the fire in the belly. So if somebody has a fire, somebody raised this issue when Kibaki was running in 2002, and Kibaki laughed it off. He said, that's the beauty of democracy. People are allowed to say even very ridiculous things. Because really, age is not an issue, at least not at that level of leadership. So for Ruto to say Raila is too old, I think, good for him. If Raila is too old to run anything, then Ruto should be happy. But then he'll just beat him in 2022. An old man will be sleeping and dozing as you beat him. But if a man is going to give you a run for your money, then you cannot again talk about age.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Richard Onyonka. And of course, so you're fielding also your candidate, Ford Kenya, isn't it?
That's true.
Apparently, last week we had editorial cartoons here, and none of your candidate was featuring there.
No, it happens. I mean, right now everybody's concentrating the ball on the two big boys, and that is ODM and Jubilee. But
so does it mean also your candidate is a non-starter according to many pundits?
Not really. Actually, the guy is very well spoken. He is loved. He was born there. The gentleman grew up in Kibra. His father is Muslim. The mother is Christian. Yes. Oh. Yes. He articulates issues very, very well. For me, the issue that I really wanted to raise, which is quite amazing, is very simple, Dibal. You have some people blaming Raila, and the truth is, it is very easy to blame Raila for the simple reason that, number one, when you look at Kibra and look at its history and the members of parliament who've been through it, it shows that Ken Okoth actually did a lot. But the truth is, even Raila, when you look at the slum upgrading of Nyayo estate and all the other estates, there's some work which has been done. But Kibra needs much more. Kibra cannot be politicized. When you go to Kibra and look at the sewer system and look at the water sanitation and look at the filth and look at what is going on there, we can't politicize Kibra, and yet that is what we are doing. And I want to bring this issue so that my position is very clear. I had Deputy President and his team lambasting the former Prime Minister and saying how he has kept Kibra in a mess over the years. But how many billions did we lose in Kibra through NYS, where Jubilee has been in government? I mean, if they want, in fact, that's why we've been saying the best candidate should be maybe the Ford Kenya candidate and maybe Owalo. Because the truth is, look at Diban, the amount of money we lost through NYS at Kibra. Nothing was done. Money was pilfered off. Big ideas were brought out. Everybody was saying how there was branding. You remember everybody was rushing to Kibra over this branding. TP was there, the president was there. And you know the irony of life, it's very ironic. The person who was managing this Kibra money, Governor Waiguru, was yesterday on the side of the Prime Minister and saying how the future is bright and stuff is going to be sorted out. So for me, this is the contradiction of our Kenyan politics, that people who mismanage public resources, people who should be held accountable, people who do not deliver when the public expects them to deliver, they are the ones, in fact, who come and start championing how this country has a bright future and is going to go on. For me, Kibra is a travesty. Kibra is in fact, is a national disaster. I know that it has been a long time, and no individual, and that is why I'm saying I don't think that Raila would have really changed Kibra, because there are socio-economic, political and cultural issues. When you touch one group about the piece of land which they own, which was ancestral, and you're telling them, let us try and change this place, they tell you, we don't trust you, and we don't know that you are going to change our lives. So my feeling is that Kibra needs a rethink. Kibra needs a serious government intervention, because really it's the government which can intervene. I was happy that the highway, there's the new bypass which has been done through Kibra.
Yes.
It has actually opened up the place, and you can see that there's going to be change in the place. But for us to politicize Kibra, where we are throwing epithets at each other, and one side is talking about how the other side does not deserve, and they're going to bring these magnificent changes in Kibra, is just disappointing.
It's just disappointing.
Yes.
So we can see also some, I don't know if it's a good optics for NASA or ODM for that matter. You can tell us, Dr. James Nyikal, we saw Anne Waiguru, we're saying, yeah, what was Ipangwe? We've seen Kivutha Kibwana, we've seen Alfred Mutua. Does this also just, showcasing, or does it showcase the fact that NASA is dying? Look at today's editorial cartoon in the People Daily. This is what Stano has done for us in the People Daily, and I want you just to comment on it, because I know you're an ODM member. Do we have NASA? If we just have that editorial cartoon, please.
Well, NASA existed, and things exist either legally or functionally. And I think legally, nobody has come out to scrap NASA. But functionally, you really don't see it working as it was working before. And in this particular case in Kibera.
So you can be very categorical, yeah, instead of just prevaricating around it, just say NASA is dead. He's been, yeah, that is the epitaph.
Now,
the epitaph of NASA right now.
If you look at what is happening in Kibera, if we then have the candidates, and from the NASA partners, we have different candidates, it will then be very difficult to campaign as a group, because each part has got their own candidate. So obviously, if you take that single case, obviously it's not functioning as one. And if you are then campaigning for your candidate, you will look for alliance from anywhere that they can give you support if they agree with you on that matter. If it gives advantage in the future, and we know that political alliances really do change after elections, then that may be as it is. But as we are seeing things now in Kibera, really NASA has not operated as one, and other alliances have come in that have supported the Kibera campaign. So practically, that's how it is, really. I'll say that NASA is not really functioning as one coalition as before. But to say it is dead, I don't go for such things, because politics changes so much. Today you are seeing Anne Waiguru and Raila Odinga. So if you had said maybe 2 years earlier that those will never work together, you'd have got it wrong. But let me weigh in a little bit on age. I think age and performance is something that we have failed to look at, even biologically, leave alone politically. The human being, unlike some other animals, when people are born, they actually born with an immense capacity to learn. That is the difference, an immense capacity to learn, and very little in store that you come in from birth. So over the time, people learn. True, as people age, they actually get slower, but they still have an enormous amount of information with them. If you look at all functions, all systems, whether you look at engineering systems, whether you look at political systems, whether you look at military systems, you find that with time, people who are slight on the higher age, actually take the leadership. Because basically, you have to learn what is in the world and know about it. And people who are of the younger age actually run with the vision. So if you split the world such that young people do things on their own, they may do a lot of things very fast, but they actually may not be very successful.
Thank you.
And if you leave old people alone, they may have a lot of information that they can actually put along, but it probably takes two time. My view is put the two together. Let me just say this thing about age. You look at now, we are saying you want to cut off the retirement age at say 50. If you just go and look at arithmetic, not even mathematics, and say take off all people above 50 and say they stop being employed, you assume them themselves don't now constitute an employment, and then take people between 50 and down to say 25. That number cannot be replaced with that number. So to just run for that and say that if you remove those old age people, then obviously we'll fill in, is to look at it very narrowly. And the experience have shown, in Malaysia, Dr. Mahathir came in at 90. He had actually walked out, came in at 90, and actually made a dramatic change.
Thank you.
So it is performance.
It is performance.
Yes.
All right, let's hear from Isaac Baura on this as well. What is your assessment on the current state of play in Kibra?
I think we are seeing a very strong realignment with regards to strange bedfellows. And, you know, it started with what looked like friendly fire, remembering the Embakasi debacle between Wiper and ODM, of course Mawade won. And you can see Kalonzo has kept away in Kibra, but then Raila has gone for his nemesis. He's taken all his 3 governors from Mukambani, and he's now, parading them to support Imran Okoth. In fact, he's made some statement that Kamba women are very faithful. They do not turn back when they give you a promise. And at the same time, we are also seeing Mudavadi, who is trying to flex his muscle. The Ford Kenya candidate of Richard Onyonka is lost. In fact, it is him who is introducing him to the show. And he sounds more like a PS material or a CS than actually a parliamentary candidate. Eliud Owalo also seems to be lost, yet he's the one who started a campaign called the Dove in Kibra for a long time. And you remember Eliud Owalo is not a stranger to politics. He's one who was the head of the presidential campaign secretariat of Raila Odinga in 2013. So basically, this fight is bigger. In fact, I'm sure people like Imran and Mariga could be asking themselves, what did they get themselves into? What is this hula baloo? Because they actually not even been shown talking. It is about Raila and Ruto. And yes, you must give credit to William Ruto because he's given ODM a run for money, because obviously if Jubilee was not in this race, it would have been another affair, and I don't think the high octane politics would have been witnessed. However, this contest is very, very important because it is coming just before the release of the BBI report. And it is a microcosm of the reshaping of 2022 politics. So really it's much bigger. We are waiting to see whether the margin between Mariga and Okoth will be as high. It will certainly be a disaster if Imran Okoth were to lose. But it also gives credence to the fact that because of the good performance of Ken Okoth, that is playing into the politics, because you find most of the candidates are not outsiders, as it were. These are people who have been born and bred in Kibra, and you can see the real desire of Kibra people to have one of their own to continue with the legacy of leveraging on development. Because sometimes when this constituency is also caught up in national politics, it suffers. And it's not just this constituency. Look at everywhere where a candidate or someone who is running for presidency comes from. Sometimes you see the same things that we are seeing in Kibra during Kibaki when he was the leader of official opposition.
Yes.
So really, we are waiting to see, but eventually and ultimately, I think for me the real realignment will come after the release of the BBI report.
All right, the release of BBI report. Also, parties are saying that the DP, or according to him, that Mr. Mariga in Kibra has sent shivers in ODM camp. We can see he's changing his strategy as it is right now. Instead of the rallies that we've always been seeing, this was a change of tack. We have also him bringing some of the big shots, like we've talked about these governors as well. He's very systematic. He's very pragmatic and using a different tact in approach to Kibra. Do you think the Jubilee has actually thrown in, or really upsets ODM's apple cart?
I think Bal, let's just go to your Daily Nation. Look at the photo at the front page, and look at who is there. So you have Kebani Shongwa here, you have John Waluki at the back, you have William Ruto, you have, is this the Mariga? And then you have Ujagwa. Then on this other end, you have, this is Kiboda Kibwana, a household name. You have Anne Waiguru,
Yes.
very well known. I mean, this is a strange bedfellow #1, because you see they were even fighting here. Then you have Alfred Mutua, who's just defeated Kalonzo in Kitui. You have Ngilu, who is raring to go and nemesis of William Ruto. Then you have, is this Imran? Anyway.
Yes, yes.
So look at this photo. Doesn't it just say it? Because Raila is saying here, this is not about Imran. This is about the future of Kenya, and it's about my future. Here you have, it's a war. It's a war of old versus new. I mean, it's very clear.
Thank you.
These are beginners. You know, in national politics, you can kill. These are seasoned politicians.
Thank you.
So there's an age struggle.
There's an age struggle.
Yes.
No, let's hear from Hammond. We'll come to Richard. Hammond, we began with you.
You see, before I say what I wanted to say, let me join Mawara in saying this is a serious war. You can see the front page really says a lot.
Yes.
We have established figures, establishment figures versus the hustler, the young fellows here who don't count for much. Now, the only thing I want to say,
Professor, did you just say they don't count for much?
Yeah. Except for Ruto, of course. This is the Shungas, these are young people. They don't hold the clout Anne Waiguru holds, for example.
Yes.
You can't compare Shungwa to Anne Waiguru, for example. None of these people compares to Mutua, Ngilu, and Kibwana in terms of many things, including age. And what I want to say is this. Raila must be very, very careful. If you lose this seat with this kind of image Maura is talking about, Isaac, this, hey, my friend, the signal it sends, the message it sends, that you are vulnerable, that you are not the strong man people have always thought you are, and you know it is important to keep your people believing you are tough. If they lose the Kibra seats, that's why Ruto came to Kibra. He's testing these fellows. He's shaking them and testing them. Say, come on, come, enter the ring. If he beats them, even if he doesn't win, let's say just for argument's sake, there are 30,000 voters who turn out. And let's say Imran wins with something like 14,000. And the rest share with Mariga getting like 10,000. 10,000 when Imran gets 14 is a disaster to Raila and ODM. It shows he's not the tough man people have thought. So he has to be very careful. This war must be won. But back to the Kibra war, you see, I also want to tell Maura that Buttigieg is not just anybody. He almost won in his home. He's a tough man. I heard him speak during the burial of Boni Khalwale's wife. He's not just a man you can dismiss. He almost won in 2017.
And he has been crowded out by this.
So, yeah, of course, things are happening in
The campaign
Kibra.
is very quiet. You have to be strategic.
You see, in
can't
Kibra,
make noise.
it began like this. It was always obvious it was ODM, and therefore Imran was going to win. After some times, the Luya narrative, which nobody is talking about.
Yes.
There's a strong Luya narrative in Kibra.
Thank you.
Which, if it wasn't for Buttigieg and Mariga, Owala was going to win this thing in the morning by around 10. But because now Luyas are likely to be split, there's a strong Luya narrative in Kibra that propels Owala almost to victory. But something happened. We dismissed Mariga. And then from nowhere, even speaking, even demeanor, Ruto has really coached this guy. I think it's Ruto. Ile Sindio has disappeared. Sindio. He looks, even from an image perspective.
He looks shaken?
He looks like a serious candidate already. And I live in Kibra myself. And I can tell you on the ground, there is Mariga on the ground. So the ground is, somebody was asking where I would put my money. I told them it is too close to call. Any of these guys can win that race.
All right, too close to call, you think. But is Raila shaken by this?
He's shaken.
He's shaken.
He's shaken.
Okay.
My observation is very simple. Actually, the best headline is the one on the Star.
The one on the Star?
Yeah.
All right, I'll be able to show it later.
The
why
one on the
did-
star
I think
is
my
why
laptop
DP
has
Ruto
disconnected.
Raila desperate for Kibra win. For me, this is actually the real headline. Dibal, there's another matter that we are actually not looking at. Other than the team that you see on the Nation showing the team that was with former Prime Minister and the team that was with William Ruto. Very sincerely, I believe that the Prime Minister has mishandled the issue of NASA. And I want to come to my brother Isaac Mwaura. Mwaura, I'll tell you this today. If NASA was together today, there's nothing Jubilee would do in Kibra.
Of course, you will not even go there.
Yeah, so the truth is, it is because of the mishandling of NASA, which has led to you guys now feeling like you have moved into Baba's bedroom and you can challenge him. If you look at what happened in the last elections and you look at the number of votes which were cast in Kibra and you look at the performance which was there in Kibra, if you took Musalia, that is the vote Owalo was looking at. Look at Moses Wetangula, and this is the vote Butich is looking at. And by the way, Moro, you're my brother. I want by Friday you call me. Butich is most probably going to be number 1 or 2. I have a reason why, and I'll justify that.
Let's wait.
Number 3, like he's saying, like my senior brother Manyora, Professor Manyora is talking about. In fact, to me, the candidacy of Butichi and the candidacy of Nania,
Hello, Mariga.
no, the Mariga,
Yes.
is what might make Okot's brother win. For the simple reason that they're actually going to split the Luya vote.
Which is very strategic.
Are you with me? So my point is, I would wish, just the way Professor Manyora has said, and Dr. Nyikal is here and is my friend, Dr. Nyikal, we must figure out how to reconfigure NASA. I don't think that the two issues right now, the fact that the Prime Minister can bring Charity and the other guys, that they are mutually exclusive. I think for us in the opposition, for us to get the critical mass that we need in order to go and challenge the Jubilee juggernaut, I believe we must reconfigure, rethink, and make rearrangement as to what the issues are so that we can sort out our journey. Lastly, it was very also critical, very interesting, Prof. Yes. Kalonzo didn't show up. We really wanted him to come around, but of course he was in his father's memorial, so he couldn't come.
Okay.
But politically, Kalonzo is being a little bit careful. He's trying to maintain his relationship with Raila, and he doesn't want to really be antagonistic towards Raila. But then it looks like Prime Minister Raila is becoming antagonistic towards Kalonzo. But again,
Antagonistic in what sense?
in the sense that he brought Kibwana, who has left his party, he brought Mutua, who has been hitting at him, and he has brought Charity, who have not been very good friends. But again, in politics, there's a possibility that these three individuals might, from Ukambani, might actually agree to work with Prime Minister Raila. At some later time, they might actually make up amongst themselves.
But we've seen a formation of the trio as
Yes.
well, and also this has really shaken a bit Kalonzo Musyoka as far as him being the kingpin in the Ukambani politics is concerned.
The problem
So
is
is the alliance also, because Raila is looking who will really carry the number? Is just one individual or maybe the trio? And it seems maybe this really
It's
packs a
bigger than
punch.
that, Deba. It's
Yes.
bigger than that. It's
Yes.
a question of, in the new arrangement, even if you create Prime Minister and 2 deputies and so on and so forth,
Yes.
what do you give Kalonzo? So if a way could be found to ease him out quietly,
Thank you.
bring in people whose demands may not be as high.
Just a moment. Let's
Let
hear
me
from
just
James.
say a basic thing. It is always interesting that when we come to these discussions, we take one issue and then we leave the basics of anything. All by-elections are actually party issues, because quite often people are fighting for the numbers they have in the house. 2, in by-elections, you bring the whole party force behind that single candidate. While in a general election, it's actually everybody is fighting for their own, including the party leaders, and even the other politicians are fighting. So in the general elections, you find that actually in a constituency, it's quite often a war between candidates. one candidate and the other. But in a by-election, all the forces come together. And because of that, you actually get the bigger national picture playing in any by-election. So in this case, when we have the other allies, the other people coming in as allies, the old allies don't seem like it's working very well. I won't dismiss it. Look at 2002. By June, July, Kibaki was not even in the picture. It was actually Wamalwa, Nyechai, and Raila, and he would have been dismissed. So when we are going towards a general election, and there is a by-election, of course it reflects what's going to happen, and people are trying to build coalitions. And I wouldn't say that, as I said earlier, I can't say NASA is dead. I would not be surprised if we actually get a move where all these people that are coming together actually include even NASA.
Right.
What happened to NAC in, again, 2002? Out of nowhere, people who were totally in different parties came together. So I think let's see it as the dynamics of by-election in relation
But it appears,
to the bigger picture.
it appears NASA never learns its lesson as far as even the 2017 election is concerned. With the Kibra itself, the election there on the ground, where you just gave, Jubilee a clear path to walk in, because you are actually presenting so many, candidates, and you're talking about splitting the votes as well. This is the same scenario that will play out with this particular by-election. Do you agree?
With this by-election, yes, but I'm saying to extrapolate and say that
So
in 2022,
with this by-election, yes,
in this by-election,
meaning now Jubilee will actually garner this particular seat.
no, Jubilee is not going, because Jubilee is also not in Kibera as Jubilee. Because if you look at it, Kibera,
Is it in Kibra as what?
it is been bits. Remember that if you looked at the party yesterday, there are people who are supposed to be Jubilee. Jubilee now has don't know.
You're talking of commander as well.
So now you have commander as well. So even within Jubilee, there are people who are already on the other side. So there are forces that are working there.
But at least they've presented one candidate. NASA, holistically, as we look at NASA, we have Butichi, we have Owalo, you have, of course, Imran as well.
But you really must look at who is the dominant candidate and who are people rallying around.
So you're looking at the dominant
as
candidate.
I said earlier,
I think
as I said earlier, if you look at Kibera alone, then obviously we'll say NASA has not worked in Kibera as a unit. But that is not to say that you will never see those NASA people working together. If you do that, you are being very short-sighted and not looking at politics as it evolves.
But let me say this from what Dr. Nyikal is saying. There is no script for NASA. It is only nostalgia. And this nostalgia is laced with also mistakes of the past, because that's the same way you find Jubilee having a supermajority, although it's no longer, the center is not as, is holding. The only script that is there is for the handshake. I mean, when you see people wearing a Jubilee t-shirt with an ODM hat, then you realize really it's not about Musalia, it's not about Wetangula, it's not about Kalonzo, it's about Raila and Uhuru. And that is where the script is. Maybe if Dr. Nyikal would restrict himself to that, it will gain currency. But certainly, one thing is for sure, we cannot sit here and imagine that these vehicles for 2017 will be the same in 2022. Already by Raila going for the 3 governors of Ukambani, he is telling Kalonzo, I can dump you. In fact, he's saying, I may actually work with these newbies, and they are the ones that will help me. And you remember the continuous rivalry between Gilu and Kalonzo, and now the wannabe presidents who are two-term governors, Mutua and Kevuda. And remember also, when we had the devolution conference in Kakamega, is it 1 or 2 years ago, Raila proposed a third tier of government to accommodate the retiring governors, which is very enticing to every governor who knows that what is their next option. So you are seeing really a game that cannot certainly be suited by NASA. The unkind words that have come from Musalia Mudavadi against Raila Odinga certainly is not friendly fire. Because he says the Raila now is no longer the one I used to know. Of course, Wetangula has even gone to the other tangent. So NASA has collapsed. If you look at the Star newspaper today, we are having a tiff with Wiper asking Sifuna, calling Wiper leeches who who are like parasites, who eat from the other people's sweat. And the Kadhiani MP, Wiper Whip, is responding. And they are quarreling over money. So if already money that is coming from the registrar of political parties that was actually hunted together is going to ODM alone. Are you saying that there is some future kind of an alliance that is...
What I'm
and
saying
also people are ambitious.
All right.
The people
What
who
I'm
are
saying is very
2013.
simple. Let me just close it up. Let me just close it up.
No, let's take a short break.
All I'm saying,
Kindly